Hey, welcome back to the lab. Today we're going to be creating a blog completely from scratch using only Go. Let's get started. Let's begin by creating Go mod file and then open up, and let's begin by adding the way that we're going to work with the actual articles. We're going to create another directory called article, and then in here let's create something called assets, and assets is simply going to be holding all of our articles. So let me just create a few dummy articles, article 1 and article 2. 1 content, and the same for article. There we go. So we have some dummy data we can play around with. Next up, we also want some way to get out the content of a specific article, and we also want to get a list of file names from all the articles we have in our system. So we're going to do this by creating an article.go file, and in Go 1.13, 1.16, I think something around those lines, Go introduced this embed package where we can actually embed files in the final binary, which makes it super easy to ship and deploy. So we simply just create this command and called go embeds, and then we can create a variable called assets that is an embed file system. And now we need two things. We need the one to get the actual content of an article, and we need something to get all the articles. So let's just create a get asset, takes in a file name, string, and returns us a string and an error. And we see file error asset. And since we have this in a subfolder, we need to say asset /md, right? Yes. File name. In a production use case, to handle errors a little bit better than this, maybe log out some information, but for our use case right now, this is sufficient. File and nil. And it's almost going to be the same for get assets, which is going to be returning instead just a slice of strings and also an error. And we're saying files error, and now instead we're going to say read dir. And read dir wants to have a name of the directory, which is also why we put all our articles in a subdirectory. And it returns on a slice of directory entries, which we can loop over and then just grab the file names. So let's just say file names. Yeah, that's probably fine. This is going to be the slice of strings, and we're going to loop over the files like so. It will return us the name plus the extension. So if it has a method called name, and you can see here it returns the whole thing, which we don't want. We want to only have the before the dot extension part, right? And we can use split for that. So let's just say file, let's call it this. And split will return a slice of two elements, and we only want the first one because that is what has the actual file name that we're interested in. And then we simply append it to file name slice, return file names nil. There we go. All right. So that is looking good. Let's just add our main.go, where we're just gonna have some placeholder functions for now, because we want two handlers. We want a home handler that shows some blog information and a list of blog articles we have written. And it's just gonna be an empty function for now. And then we also want an article handler, which will basically just showcase the article. And finally, we need our main function, and we're just gonna leave it like this for now. But we also need something to actually showcase the articles. And for that, we're gonna create some views where we will be using something called templ. And templ is a templating library that's written in Go. It compiles down to Go code, which makes it super easy to work with for in the rest of the code base. It's super efficient. Reusability becomes very easy. And they also have this thing of inheritance, or template wrappers is probably more correct, which can make us can save us quite a bit of code when we start to expand upon our blog or the page. So let's create like a base template here with the base structure of our HTML page. My personal blog. And for it to be able to wrap around other pages, we need it to accept some children, which you might be familiar with if you have ever done React. And you can see now it's complaining that we don't have the libraries, so we need to go get this one. Before we can actually generate the Go code, we also need a CLI, which templ also provides for us. So we can just install this by using this command right here. I already have it, so I can just go ahead and say templ generate. Success, and now we have this thing right here. Now this doesn't do much for us, since we obviously don't export this from the views package. So let's create our home page, and it's gonna be very similar. Instead, we're gonna export this function, and to actually wrap it inside of base, you can do this home page. Now, if we were to add something like style sheets in here, a navigation bar, a footer, our home page will also have it, which makes maintainability easier. It cuts down on code. It's great. So we also need to do this for article. And here we are also just going to say something like article page. That's good for now. So let's go ahead and generate these. And we then have all of these simple Go functions that we can start to use in our handlers. So before we actually start returning our HTML from our handlers, let's add in our router. I'm gonna be using Echo. And of course you can use whatever you want here. I like Echo. It's a really nice router, ships a lot of functionality. But of course there are a lot of options in the Go ecosystem, and you can use whatever you want. Yeah, so we have a new instance of Echo, and we can then start to add endpoints. We're just gonna have the root go to home handler, and then we want to go to /articles/ then a slug variable to our article handler. So this, if you're not familiar, is literally just what's this? This is a dash between every word. So if you have something like how to create a blog in Go, it will be how -to - so on and so forth. It's a really nice way to create like readable URLs. And it's complaining because we are not fulfilling the interface that it expects. It expects an echo handler func. So we simply just need to make it accept a echo context. And it needs to return an error. We need to do the same for our article handler. Great. And now we can say return use home render, and it's so it's complaining. Let me jump out and run go mod tidy. There we go. Nice. And not enough arguments as expected. The render method takes in a context. So let's grab the request context, and then let's also grab the context response. Just yank it and then like this. Now one final thing before we can actually run this is we need to say e.logger.facial and e.start, and we're gonna do it on port 8080. So now I should be able to say go run main.go, and we can. Let's try and open localhost 8080, and we have the home page. And now, since we actually haven't implemented the lookup functionality, we can go to articles/whatever, and we see the article page. So this is working as expected, but let's change it so we actually start to see some links here on the home page to our articles. And we can do that by first of all grabbing all the, let's just call it articles error, and then get assets. And if we have an error here, it's just gonna return a 500. We could handle this, but it's outside the scope of this video. And then in our home template, let's say we just want an argument of articles that is just done slash a string that we can then loop through. And since this is pure Go, the syntax is the same, so we just say for article in range articles like this. It's complaining. Let me see why. I think there we go. So articles not used. So you can see the syntax highlighting works. It's just Go. This is fucking awesome. Anyway, let's add an anchor tag, and to actually have templ generate the URL, we need to use something called templ URL, which generates a safe URL for us. But since we are using /articles, we need to do this. And this is another thing, since since this is just Go, we also have access to the standard library in our views. So we can do something like this. And now we should actually receive a list of articles that we can click. That will then go to /articles/ the slug. And this is one of the limitations with the setup we have right now, is that we just grab the name, which is this, what I described earlier as the slug. But we're also just going to use this as the title, and this of course is not sufficient, but in part 2 of this video we will update this, but for now this should be fine. So let's just generate, go in here and restart. Yeah, and home doesn't have enough arguments, that's right. Yeah, now homepage is done, so now we need to make the article handler be aware of any slugs that gets provided through the URL. We can do that by saying cdx param slug, and then we say file, or we say article. Say article get assets slug, and same thing as with home. We need to say article data. This is a string. And let's just showcase this in a paragraph tag. Template generates, restart, and it has the nice article. Great, so let's give this a spin and see if it actually is working. We have article 1 and 2, that's nice. Let's try and click it. And we get article 1 showing up and article 2. Now you can notice that it simply spits out the content as a string, which is obviously not what we want. We want to be able to add styling, we want some HTML elements. If we were to do something like add a code block, let's say we add like a code block here. Let's just do a hello world func. And then let's rerun the server. Go back to article 1. This just, again, pure string. Like we would like to have like a nice formatted code block with some syntax highlighting, so our readers obviously can read the article without having to squint their eyes as whatever this is. And to do this, we're gonna add a parser. And I have cheated a little bit by copy pasting the code we're gonna need. So I had not, hang on 2 seconds. Okay, let's try this again. And there we go, now it actually works. So we have a ton of dependencies here. But basically we're gonna use a library called Goldmark that has something to parse Markdown. And you can see here we also have some way to add highlighting. We're going to use Groovebox, which is the color theme of my editor. We're going to use some line numbers, some tab width. All of this is provided for us, which is really, really, really nice. So what we need to do now is like, let's jump out and say go more tidy. We should get all of it. Yes. And then in here, we still have the chroma HTML, right? Yeah. Which is gonna be this one. And the highlight is gonna be version 2. Yeah. Let's go more tidy one more time. Are we actually... We are not. That's interesting. Hang on 1 second. And it's because we need to use this thing instead of this thing. And we are happy now, it looks like. Go red. Yeah, all good. So final thing, we need to add a method to a parser. It's just gonna call it parse, and it's gonna take the file name of whatever it's gonna parse and return also a string and an error. And actually, let's just grab this here and get rid of the get asset function. We don't really need it anymore. And it returns as the byte grid. So what Goldmark is gonna do is gonna take in an input, parse it and return an output, and that output is going to be a byte slice as well. So let's just say HTML output bytes.buffer, and then we say if error p markdown convert, and the source is our file and the output is our HTML. And we are just going to do the same. turn an empty string and the error. If everything goes well, we just say HTML output to string or no. Now we can actually start implementing this in our handler. So let's go back into main.go and we can see we get some complaints here. Because of course it no longer exists, so we need to parse a dependency. It's going to be article parser and parser.parse. That's actually all we need in this function. And now we need to change the signature to be this, so we can actually start to pass dependencies to the handler. And parser. Article, new parser. We get a parser instance, great. And now if I say go on run main.go, let's see what happens. So we get some HTML content, right? But it's escaped content because per default, templ will escape HTML, so it protects it against injections. We can work around this by creating a helper function that lets us know, or lets templ know that this is actually safe to render. So let's get on that. Let's kill the server. Let's go into the article. And in here, we're going to be adding this unsafe function, which just takes in a string and write it to a component. So if we actually just say unsafe like this, and the formatting is good now. Templ generate, go run main.go. How's it looking now? And you can see we actually have some, if we inspect the elements, you can see it turns in the paragraph into the paragraphs here. We have some H1 as per the Markdown rules, whatever it's called. And we have this nice little code block here, but this obviously needs some styling to be actually usable, which is what we're going to do in the next episode. We're going to be adding a database and some styling so we can actually start showing this to users. But in essence, this is all you need, because now you can just build the binary and ship your articles to whatever server has Go installed, or pack it as a Docker image and use, like, provide it to some service, and you're good to go because your articles is in the actual binary. So this is it for now. Thanks for this time, and see you in the next one.